You're not broke, but you're also not safe. Like, you can technically pay your bills. You're not eating ramen every night. You've got your little routines, maybe a streaming subscription you keep meaning to cancel. Maybe a car payment that makes you flinch when you think about the total interest. Maybe you're doing that thing where you time your grocery run for the day after payday so the card doesn't get declined at the worst possible moment. And honestly, the part that messes with your head isn't even the numbers. It's the mental load. It's waking up and immediately doing the math in your head. Okay, if rent hits on the 1st, and the credit card is due on the 12th, and my check clears on Friday, I just need to not have anything weird happen. Like no tire blowout. No dentist surprise. No your dog ate something illegal and now it's 900 kind of situation. And it's wild because you can be doing everything right and still feel like you're one mildly inconvenient Tuesday away from chaos. I'm Caleb, by the way, and I spend an embarrassing amount of time thinking about money, not in the buy crypto at 3 a.m. way, but in the why does money change how your brain behaves way. Like why a 40 problem feels catastrophic to one person, but a mild annoyance to another. And why sometimes you can make more money and still feel just as stressed, because your entire life expanded to match your income like some kind of financial balloon animal. So here's the question I want to sit with you for a minute. What would happen if you got 250,000? Not, you won the lottery and now you're buying jet skis. Money. Not retire tomorrow, money. But that specific amount that's big enough to change the entire shape of your life, yet small enough that you can still mess it up if you don't understand what it actually does. Because 250,000 doesn't just change your bank account. It changes your options. It changes your nervous system. It changes what you tolerate. It changes what you believe is possible. And the weirdest part is, the biggest changes aren't the ones people brag about. The biggest changes are quiet, internal, almost boring, until you realize those boring shifts are basically what separates a life that feels constantly precarious from one that feels steady. So in this video, I want to walk through what 250,000 really changes. Not in a motivational poster way. In a real-life way. The kind of way where you can feel your shoulders drop just thinking about it. And also, because I care about you, how to use it without accidentally turning it into a very expensive lesson. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're sitting at home and you get an email. Subject line: urgent, unexpected charge. Your stomach does that little flip. You click it. And it's not a scam. It's real. Something happened. Maybe a medical bill. Maybe a car repair. Maybe your landlord found a leak. Maybe your job suddenly announces restructuring, which is corporate for we're about to ruin your week. If you're living close to the edge, these moments don't just cost money. They cost peace. They cost sleep. They cost your ability to think clearly. Because when you don't have slack, every problem becomes an emergency. Now here's what 250,000 does. It introduces slack into your life. Not infinite slack. Not, nothing can hurt me. But enough slack that problems stop feeling like predators. And when problems stop feeling like predators, your brain changes. You know what's underrated? The ability to look at a surprise 1,200 expense and think, okay. Annoying, but fine. That is a form of wealth people don't talk about because it's not shiny. You can't post it on Instagram. There's no, here's my emergency fund photo that gets likes. But psychologically? It's everything. Story/example: I had a friend, let's call him Marcus, who got a windfall. Not a lottery, not a trust fund. His grandmother passed and left him about $180K. He was mid-20s, decent job, and stressed all the time. The first month after receiving it, he didn't buy anything. He just breathed differently. He told me, "It feels like I'm not being hunted." And I remember thinking, that's exactly it. Because financial stress isn't just stress. It's pursuit stress. Like something is always chasing you. Simple concept breakdown: what you're buying is buffer. And buffer buys cognition. It buys better decisions. It buys patience. When you're stressed, you make short-term choices. When you have buffer, you can make long-term ones. Why it matters to you if you've ever felt like you're smart, but you keep making dumb money decisions, it might not be intelligence. It might be stress. Actionable takeaway: if you ever do get a lump sum, $250K, $25K, honestly even $5K, don't start with investing. Start with stabilizing your life. Create a boring cushion. Pay off the highest interest debt first, the stuff that's actively eating you. Build a real emergency fund. Reduce the number of "if this happens, I'm done" scenarios. The goal is to lower your financial heart rate before you try to optimize. Personal reflection: honestly, I think the biggest flex is not a car. It's not a watch. It's being able to sit in a quiet room and not feel like your life is a spreadsheet that's about to catch fire. Most people don't realize they're renting their future. They borrow against it constantly. Credit cards. Loans. Buy now, pay later. Even emotional debt, like staying in a job you hate because you can't afford to leave. And when you're renting your future, time feels sharp. Like you're always behind. 250,000 softens time. Not by magically making you young or giving you more hours in a day, but by giving you control over the next few years. And control over the next few years is basically control over your identity. Because you can do things like take a lower-paying job that doesn't destroy your soul. Go back to school without panic. Start a business without your rent being a ticking bomb. Take time off when you're burned out before your body forces you to anyway. Story/example: think about how people act when they have 2 weeks of runway versus 2 years of runway. 2 weeks of runway makes you desperate. You accept bad deals. You tolerate nonsense. You stay quiet when you should speak up. 2 years of runway makes you selective. And selectivity is power. Concept breakdown: money doesn't buy happiness in a direct way. But it buys time to choose, which is one of the main ingredients of happiness. Why it matters: because if you can change what you do with your days, you can change who you become. Takeaway: if you ever get $250K, the question isn't, what can I buy? It's, how many months of freedom can I buy? And freedom isn't doing nothing. Freedom is being able to do the right thing for your life without needing permission from your next paycheck. Okay, this is the part nobody likes, because it's not flattering. 250,000 will not automatically make you responsible. It will reveal what you already are. If you're someone who uses spending to regulate emotion, stress shopping, boredom shopping, I deserve this shopping, 250,000 gives you a bigger emotional pacifier. If you're someone who avoids looking at numbers because numbers make you anxious, 250,000 gives you a larger mess to avoid. If you're someone who needs external validation, 250,000 can turn into a social performance. And this is why windfalls can be dangerous. Not because the money is bad, but because it amplifies whatever is already going on psychologically. Example: I've seen people get a lump sum and immediately upgrade their life as if it's a race. New car, new apartment, new wardrobe, new. I'm the kind of person who. Identity, and then a year later they're back to stress, except now their monthly expenses are higher, and the money that could have created stability has been converted into nice things that now feel normal. Concept breakdown: lifestyle creep isn't just poor discipline. It's identity inflation. Why it matters: because you can waste 250,000 without doing anything stupid on paper. You can waste it by slowly increasing your baseline. Takeaway: before you touch the money, create a rule. No permanent lifestyle upgrades until the money has created permanent stability. If you want to spend a small portion, fine. I'm not your dad. But treat it like celebration, not transformation. Transformation comes from structure. This one is subtle. And it's honestly one of the most powerful. When you don't have savings, you negotiate everything from fear. You're afraid to ask for a raise. Afraid to leave a bad relationship. Afraid to move cities. Afraid to say no to a boss who texts you at 9:47 p.m. like you're a 24-hour emotional support employee. But when you have a real financial buffer, you stop begging life to be gentle with you. You can finally be a little firm. Not rude. Not arrogant. Just firm. Story/example: a friend of mine once told her boss calmly, "I can't do that timeline. It's not realistic." 2 years earlier, she would have panicked and said yes, then stayed up till 2 a.m. crying into a laptop. The only difference wasn't confidence. It was runway. Concept: money creates boundaries. Boundaries create self-respect. Self-respect changes everything. Takeaway: if you get $250K, don't just treat it like money. Treat it like leverage to build a life that doesn't require you to betray yourself every week. Most people hear risk tolerance and think investing. I'm talking about life risk. When you're broke, you take risky shortcuts because you need quick relief. When you're stable, you can take calculated risks that compound. This is the difference between gambling versus building. $250,000 can move you from gambling to building. But you have to respect it. Example: someone with no cushion might start a business by maxing credit cards and hoping. Someone with a cushion can save a runway, test a product, fail small, iterate, learn, try again. Why it matters: because compounding doesn't just happen in investments. It happens in skills, relationships, health, and opportunities. Takeaway: use some of the money to buy learning cycles. Pay for a course, coaching, tools, or time, whatever helps you do experiments without destroying your finances. Let's be real, $250,000 is not private jet money. Depending on where you live, it's not even house paid off money. But it is I don't collapse when life sneezes money. And that is a superpower. How to structure it, practically, without getting robotic. I'm not going to turn this into a spreadsheet lecture, but here's a human version. First, remove anything that's actively bleeding you, high-interest debt. Second, build a buffer that covers real life, emergency fund plus predictable big expenses. Third, protect the money from your own impulses, separate accounts, automation, friction. Fourth, invest the rest in a simple, boring way that you won't panic sell. Boring is good. Boring is stable. Boring is what lets you sleep. Why it matters: because the point isn't to impress people. The point is to build a life that feels solid under your feet. Takeaway: if you want the money to change everything, you have to let it do what it's best at, creating stability first, then growth. Not the other way around. This is the part that hits people in the chest, so just stay with me. When you don't have money, you start becoming a smaller version of yourself. Not because you're weak. Because you're adapting. You say no to trips. You say no to opportunities. You say no to doctors. You say no to rest. You say no to risks. You say no to the version of you that could have existed. And slowly, without noticing, your life becomes a hallway instead of a landscape. $250,000 can stop that process. It can interrupt the shrinking. And sometimes the biggest gift isn't what you get to do. It's what you no longer have to do. You don't have to stay in survival mode. You don't have to tolerate disrespect for a paycheck. You don't have to live with constant background dread. You don't have to be the version of you that's always bracing for impact. Takeaway: if you ever receive that kind of money, don't ask, "How do I spend it?" Ask, "What kind of person does this allow me to become?" And then build toward that, slowly, deliberately, quietly. So, does $250,000 change everything? Yeah. But not because you suddenly become some upgraded, flawless human with a perfect investment portfolio and matching luggage. It changes everything because it changes the pressure you live under. It changes the way you think in the morning. It changes the way you respond to emergencies. It changes your ability to say no. It changes your ability to wait. It changes your ability to choose. And honestly, the most surprising part is that the stuff is the least important part. The car, the clothes, the vacation, those are temporary spikes. The real transformation is when your life stops feeling like a tightrope and starts feeling like ground. Solid ground. If you're watching this and you don't have 250,000, maybe you have 250. Maybe you have negative 250. I get it. The point isn't the number. The point is the principle. Build slack. Build runway. Build stability. Protect your future self from chaos. And if you ever do come into money, inheritance, business sale, bonus, lawsuit settlement, whatever, please don't rush to make it look like something. Let it be something first. Let it buy you peace. Let it buy you time. Let it buy you choices. Let it buy you the ability to become the person you've been trying to be while carrying a backpack full of financial stress. Because the goal isn't to feel rich. The goal is to feel unshakable. And you don't get there in a week. You get there in small, boring, compassionate decisions, repeated long enough that your life starts to trust you. Alright. Take a breath. And ask yourself one question. What's the smallest version of 250,000 changes everything that you could start building this month? Start there. Quietly. Seriously. And keep going.